What's up guys, Max here with another flag video, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cool wavy wooden American flag. Let's get started. Alright, so first up I got four 8-foot 2x4s, and we're going to be ripping these in half at 1 3/4 inches on the table saw. And you're going to want to do your best to pick out nice and straight ones, which can sometimes be a little difficult, but just do your best to pick out some nice flat straight ones. But like I said, I got the table saw set to 1 3/4 inches, and we're going to go ahead and rip all these in half. Alright, now that I got those all ripped in half, I'm going to go ahead and cut 13 pieces at 37 inches. Alright, so now that I got 13 of these cut, we're going to go ahead and get them all glued together, and then once they're glued, I'm going to clamp them. I got 3 of these longer, I believe these are 30-inch clamps from Harbor Freight, and then I'm going to put some weight on it to keep it from buckling. And I'm just going to glue mine so that all of my rounded edges are on the back side. So these are the edges that I cut. Alright guys, so I gave my board some time to dry, and the next thing that we're going to be doing is getting it carved out. So I went ahead and made some lines on here for how I want my waves to be. Usually I do my angles going this way. For this one I'm going to switch it up and do my angles going this way. So we'll see how this turns out. I'm going to be using this Kutzall Extreme Shaping Disc. This is the coarse one. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description to the Kutzall website, and it will automatically give you guys a discount, and they do free shipping on orders over $50. So it actually comes out to be a little cheaper than they are on Amazon. These are made in the USA as well, so that's pretty cool. Kind of cool to support made in America. I got my safety glasses. Make sure you're wearing some of these, and I also got some gloves. So let's go ahead and get to carving. Alright guys, as you can see it is a little bit dusty. Alright, so I'm getting pretty close to having this front side done. I went ahead and put like a little split in this one here, and then on my end I just kind of got a little triangle in each corner, so we'll see how it looks once it's all stained. One thing I did try to do is make the spot where my union's gonna go slightly smoother and not like as aggressive on the waves, because that's gonna make it easier for me to do my stars. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and switch it over to the back, and on the back side I like to just smooth out the back side. I mean, you don't have to, obviously it's gonna go on the wall, so it doesn't matter that much, but I like to just go over and try and just kind of get rid of all this nasty looking stuff. And then I'm gonna go around on the edges. And to do our borderless edge, I'm just gonna start tapering back, maybe starting up at the second stripe. I'm gonna start tapering this down, and then I'll just watch each edge, and I'm just gonna sand the back down until it meets this front. But I actually might sand the front first before I do that, because I don't want to meet it and then once I'm sanding the face to sand off too much and then kind of get rid of that straight line there. So I'm going to go ahead and sand the face of this. For sanding, I like to just use an orbital or just use loose sandpaper. And you're going to want to try and get it as smooth as you can with the grinder, because the grinder is going to take off a lot more and it's going to make it a lot easier to get it close to smooth, because sanding this stuff can take a while. I would recommend using some lower grit first just to get everything close, and then switch to some finer grit to get everything nice and smooth. I'll probably go from a 60 to a 220. So we're going to go ahead, get this front sanded, flip it over, and get that back carved out. Alright guys, so I am all finished up with my carving and sanding. So that is how the front is going to look. My union is going to go right up in this upper left hand corner here. So like I said, I tried to make that one not as aggressive. And then I got a little more aggressive down here because these will just be stripes. And then that is how my little borderless edge looks. I think it actually turns out pretty nice this way. I don't mind doing the borders on these or putting the frames on them, but there's something about that just nice fine edge that I really like about this way of doing it. I did add one more little bit of a ripple in here just to try and, you know, switch it up a little bit, add a little bit more character to it. And then one thing you want to be careful about when you're doing this backside is if you take off too much, you're going to start taking away the front because it gets obviously very thin and it gets very easy to take off too much. So I would worry about it more on the very bottom and on the very top. As you can see, there's a few spots like this where I took off too much. But on the sides, I actually try and take off a little bit, and then it makes it so that it's not just like a perfect square. It almost gives it more of that effect of a waving flag where there's a little bit of change in there. Obviously you can do whatever you think looks better, but this is just the way I like to do it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it down with a wet rag just to get all of the dust off of it. And then I'm going to give it some time to dry. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and start torching it. Alright guys, so I went ahead and got it all torched. So as you can see, I like to try go a little bit darker in the deeper parts of the waves, and then I try go a little lighter on the higher points, and I think that just kind of helps to give it a little bit more of a 3D look and to just bring out the waves a little more. And then I did these edges nice and dark, and then I went ahead and did a quick torching on the back just to help it match. And the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to grab my biggest stencil out of my stencil pack here, and I'm going to go ahead and line this up kind of where I want it to be. As you can see, the stencil is going to be slightly bigger than our 7 stripes that we need to line it up with. So I'm just going to kind of center it on the top and center it on the bottom, just so that those stars are going to end up centered between those 7 stripes. And then I will kind of line it up on this side as best I can. And then I'm going to push it down, and then I'm going to mark along this edge where my union is going to end. And then once I have that marked out, I'm going to go ahead and stain my red stripes first. So I'll tape off that line, tape off at the bottom of the 7th stripe line, and that'll get my union taped off. And then for my stain colors here, I got these Minwax water-based wood finishes. These are the clear tint base, and they're the solid color stain. So I know they have like transparent as well. I go with the solid color. For the red, I got crimson. For the blue, I got denim blue. And for the white, this is just the pure white or tint base. And then I also got some frog tape here. And what I'm going to do with the frog tape is pull a strip of it out, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to use one half of it, the straight edge, to tape off one edge of one stripe, and then I'm going to use the other half to tape off the other edge of the other stripe. So I'll have 2 straight edges, and I'll use each piece to tape off one side of each stripe. And obviously if we're doing the red, then I'm going to tape off all of the white stripes, make sure the union's taped off, and then I just use a rag to stain, and we'll go ahead and start staining. And then once I get that red stained, before I pull the tape off, I'm going to spray a quick coat of finish on there, and then give that some time to dry, and then that'll make it easier to tape off my red stripes to do my white stripes. You don't have to do that, but I think it does help with just letting the tape stick better to the stain. So let's go ahead and get this thing all stained up. What do you think, Gracie? All right, I got some of this satin clear. I'm gonna go ahead and spray a coat over these stripes. All right, guys, just got done with the white. For the white, when I had it taped off, I sprayed a little bit of sealer just around the union, and that's just gonna help me tape off the union a little better. And then with spraying that sealer on the red stripes, any of the little bleeds that I had come through, I was able to wipe those off with just a wet microfiber rag. So that is another benefit of having the sealer on there, is it makes it a little easier to wipe off any of the bleeds that come through. And next up, I'm going to go ahead and get this blue stained. And then once that blue is done drying, I'm going to pull the tape for it and spray another coat of sealer over the whole flag. Alright guys, so I'm all wrapped up with the staining part of it. I don't know if you could tell in the videos, but I did 2 coats of the red. Just make sure the first one dries all the way. And then I just did 1 coat of the white and 1 coat of the blue. But I prefer the red to be a little bit darker, so I go ahead and do the second coat on that. And the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and get our stars done. So for these wavy flags, I still have not found an easier way to do the stars other than carving them, which is a little bit time consuming, but in the end they do turn out really cool. So what I'm going to do is just line this up as best I can over the union area. And then I'm going to try and just like push it down and then tape it along all the edges so that it will hold it in place as good as possible. And then I got a pencil here, and we'll go ahead and get all of these stars marked out. Alright guys, so I got all my stars marked out, and next up I'm going to go ahead and get them carved out. So for this process, I use a Dremel 3000. I have the flexible shaft. On the end here, I use this little dust fan, and that just kind of helps to blow all the little sawdust pieces out of the way, or all the little carving shavings. And then for my tips, I use a 105 to outline the stars. These ones are pretty fine, so they kind of help to get that crisp star outline and help to get your points nice and crispy. And then for the middle, I use a 106. I believe a 107 you could also use for the middle. That one's a little bit bigger, and that one will take out a little bit more material, so it'll help it go a little bit faster. But that's what I'm going to be using. I run this thing at full speed and try to go slow and steady, and they usually come out pretty clean. So let's go ahead and get these all carved out. Alright guys, so I went ahead and got all my stars carved out, and then I went ahead and sprayed a coat of the sealer over them just to kind of seal all that raw wood up. And the last thing that we got to do is just flip it over and get some hangers put on the back. Alright guys, so I just put them on the 5th board down. I did roughly 5.5 inches to the center of each from the edge, and that gives me about 26 inches from center to center. If you did want to hang them on the studs, you'd have to go a little closer to each edge to get your 32, but I usually just do anchors in the wall, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright guys, so there it is, all finished up. I went ahead and went with a satin finish on mine. In case I didn't show that, it's the Rust-Oleum 2X satin clear, and I think it leaves a really good finish where you still see the color and it has a little bit of shine to it. But obviously you can use whatever kind of finish you want, if you want to go with a matte or if you want to go with a glossier. Totally up to you. I do think I'm happier with the wave pattern I did on this one than I have on my other ones. On my other ones, I didn't have as many waves, and I also didn't have any that have this little curve to them. They were all just slanted across the whole thing. So I think this definitely adds a little bit more character to it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And also let me know if you have any other comments or ideas or recommendations on anything, how anything could be better. Total, I would guess I have about close to 8 or 9 hours, I would say. But they do come out really nice and unique and definitely worth the time. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like. That helped me out a lot. Subscribe if you want to see more. Leave any video recommendations that you have down below. I'll go ahead and link everything that I use down in the description if you want to order anything. If you guys do make one of these and you want to send me a picture, I'll leave my Instagram in the description as well. And I would love to see any of the builds you guys do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck with your projects.